Now, people do not realise the massive detail that went into that D-Day project. It was planned and known where every ship was going to load from, what berth, what sort of cargo it was going to load, what size crane it would require, and everything was planned down to the most minute detail. It was really, because when you consider the size of the operation, it really was a marvellous piece of planning. And another thing in which I was involved was in the building of the Mulberry Harbour sections. The caissons were built in dry docks. These were great floating rafts with great concrete structures above them, and they had to have air bricks down below, otherwise the suction would have sucked them to the dock bottom and they would never have got them out. These were built also all round on beaches, and in the King George dry dock we built the pontoon sections of the connecting links between the caissons. Now, when we built those, we didn't know what we were building. We had plans of what we had to build, and we built them. My job was to rig up a lot of cranes and derricks all around the dock side to handle the equipment.
I remember it as if it was this morning, going over early, and the sky, you couldn't see the sky. It was black with planes. When we towed it over, we came back to England and got another one and towed that over as well. But luckily for us, we weren't hit by any shells or anything, you know. We dropped anchor about a mile from shore, and then we sort of drifted onto the shore, like, you know. We couldn't get inland, otherwise we wouldn't have got from there, because the towing barges would have got stuck in the mud or sea mud. So we had to anchor off about a mile or so away from the shore, and then it had to drift. But we had to be on board with it for it to drift. And then when we left her there and anchored her down, we had to get in our small boats and go back to the tower. It was a perilous crossing, you know what I mean? At any time, you know, we could have been bombed, but we weren't. We were lucky. Roar of the guns, you know, it was unbearable, some of it. It was like the guns were roaring all the time. You know, you hear lions roar. You only hear about 10 big guns going off. Definitely. Neither of us felt any fear at all. We were there to do a job, and like everyone else was, and we were lucky that we got away with everything. So I said, well, someone must have been shining down on us. Someone up there must have been looking down on us. But how do I say, as they say, like that film, last of the few, just surviving. When I go, perhaps there's no one else around that belonged to that Mulberry Harbour. But if you see the remnants of it, you could tell by looking at the skeleton of it how big it was. It was massive. But they were thankful that they had somewhere to tie up. Otherwise there was nothing there. You know, they would have to have stopped at sea, out 2 or 3 miles out in the sea, or anchor where they were. It was a rough day for a lot of people. You know, you live your life as you can. You know, if you get a chance to do something, do it. Because it comes a time when it could be too late for you. If you think of something and you know, you'd like to do this, you'd like to go there, do it by all means. Don't leave the years pass by. I've left mine pass well over the war, but things I might have been able to do, which I couldn't do. But, you know, you volunteer for these things and you have to put up with the consequences. But I had no pals in my village where I was brought up, and all the lads from the village were joined up in the Army, Navy or Air Force, whatever. And 2 or 3 got killed, but that's war. Nothing you can do about it.